today we're going to talk about the Balance Council and which cards I'm going to be voting for. So many of you guys have requested this. I had no idea this would be that popular, but yeah, so we'll talk about it. So basically, for those of you who don't know, with Gwentfinity, there'll no longer official balance changes by the developers. There'll be a voting system. So once a month, people vote on changes for the power and provisions of cards and leader abilities. You can put up to 3 cards or abilities in each of the brackets, so there's like different ways you can buff and nerf. It's just power and provisions. And then once you're satisfied, you put the votes in. The voting is weighted. You can give 1 3 votes, 1 2 votes, 1 1 vote. So whatever you want, the biggest, or whatever you care most about, you put in the top one. Then there's some requirements. You'll be Prestige 1 and B rank 0, which is Pro rank or 125 games. That's not that hard. It will kind of deny new players, but I don't think new players have that good of an idea of how good the cards are anyway, or see the meta that much. And then, yeah, that's just the changes. There's a maximum changes and a minimum changes, and a minimum votes. So let's get into it. So we have power increase, decrease, provision increase, and decrease. One thing I want to mention is that I think there's way more cards that need to get buffed than nerfed. Like, there's not that many cards that actually need to get nerfed, so I'm really hoping people don't vote for the cards they don't like and find annoying just to get them nerfed. I'm sure it'll happen, but I just try not to do that. Like, the card might be annoying, but it might still be balanced. So you can just leave these blank to not put a vote in. And then you can also like increase the provision of a leader. Stuff like Mahakam Forge or Uprising, things like that really could use it as well. So you can always put that in here as a way to buff them. And you can always decrease like a spying unit, which we'll be doing in one of our votes. But I don't think we need to be nerfing this many cards every patch. So you can always just leave it blank, which we won't for this one because there are some cards we will be addressing. But let's get into it. What are we going to pick? First of all, for power increase, yeah, this one is for the 3 votes here, we're going to be doing Kedwini Revenant. I've been trying to make this work ever since the last patch when they dropped Ada, and then, well, I guess that's 2 patches ago. It's just too small. It's just too small. So we're giving this 1 power. That will be our 3-vote card. It also is really good because it also buffs Drog and Forbidden Magic at the same time because they create the Revenants. This lets us spawn more Revenants, so this kind of fixes 3 cards at once if this gets buffed. And let's be honest, sure, it's kind of scary that if a 1 card gets its order off, it plays for 7, where if it's a 4 and gets the order off, it'll play for 9. But that setup is so difficult. And if you can't kill a 4 power engine, I mean, you can probably kill a couple of these off, so I think this is fine. I think it really needs it. Revenants used to be a popular deck, and it's just completely unplayable now. So really think this is a good one to go through here. And then another one we want to see, this one's a little different, but we're going to go for Cleaver's Muscle here. No one ever plays Cleaver's Muscle, but the thing is it gets spawned off of Cleaver and Novigradian Justice, more importantly Cleaver. As there's so many crime decks with Akarantia, I think one of the problems there is like you can play Cleaver, but why would you use Cleaver's 5 for 4 on this order when you can just get some of the other stuff in Syndicate? So I think letting him spawn 6 power Cleaver's Muscles would be much better. Also helps Novigradian Justice. I think Dwarves, I'd play Justice in Dwarves anyway, even with this, but I think this is a good one to get a little bit of a buff here. And the last one here, this one might be a little controversial, but I like this card, and it's just not playable right now. And it's Ruin. So if you guys remember, there was a bug with Ruin and Dagon, where if you infused Ruin with the Dagon thing and the Ruin died, it would trigger every time, like they wouldn't lose the infused effect. And it made Ruin playable, so I think if we can actually get Ruin, like a power, it might become viable as a deck. So I think we should just buff Ruin, and we'll see more alternatives in Death Wish, maybe its own deck. I think that would be cool. So I think Ruin's a good one. There are a ton of cards I need to get buffed and nerfed, by the way. Mostly buffed, but there's no way I can include them all here. And I didn't have time to make a video going over like half the cards in the game. Okay, it's not half, it's like 25% maybe. That could see some adjustment. But these are the ones I think I would like to see first. Especially Revenant, as you can tell by this. Getting on to the provision decrease. I think this is another card I think should get decreased here. And it's going to be, if we can spell Verina correctly. Oh, that's right, it's this spelling. That's right. I think Verina should be 9 provisions. So It used to be that all bleeding units can't be boosted, then it got to bleeding enemy units can't be boosted. This effect can be useful in specific situations, but I'd like to see this go down to 9. And the other thing with this going down to 9 is there's Golden Necker for vampires. This would be kind of interesting to have as a card in that deck instead of just whatever they play. Like they have very limited choices. So I think this would be an interesting option. I wonder at 9 if we could see it just doing some more things in vampires in general, because 10 reversions is a lot for this effect. Like look at Dire Bear. Dire Bear blocks the opposite row, which is similar to Verina, right? And that's an 8 for 9 provisions. This has the 4 bleeding as opposed to the raw power, and that has Berserk. But I think Verina could use a provision decrease. Speaking of new cards, we got another one here. That's Fulin. So I think she should go down to 9 provisions as well. This effect, the deploy effect, sure, yeah, okay. It can boost all of your units by 1. That's fine. And her ability to boost is not that great, I think, and no one plays her. I think the spawning with the 5 random Skellige Bronze Humans in your graveyard is very interesting. There's a lot of stuff you can do with that, like you could play a Freya's Blessing type deck. You could play a War Clans deck if you think they're going to be warriors, and 4 provisions, which they probably won't be. But there's a lot of stuff you could do with this. I think she's just a little too expensive. Like, people tried her out when the patch first dropped that had the new cards in it 2 patches ago, but I've never seen her since. I don't think anyone plays this card. But I think this should also be 9 provisions. And the last one here, this one's a little odd, but I want to shout out my boy Rico. No one ever plays Rico except with Reents. And Rico's, all you ever do with him is discard him from your deck. Pretty sure Rico... Oh, we're supposed to be in the provision chat category here. You guys didn't tell me I was doing it wrong. Good thing you guys told me. Let's drop all these down here to provision decrease. Yeah. So yeah, I think this is what we'll do for the decrease of provisions. Obviously, there's a lot more cards that could go here, but these are the ones I think we'll do first. These are the ones I'm thinking of right now. There's other cards, I'm sure. And at some point, I'll probably make a video on all the cards, but I want to see these ones changed a little bit here. I doubt Rico will actually get many votes, so it might not get changed, but... Is Rico at 5 provisions too crazy? I don't really think so. What else we have? 5 provisions, golds. Maybe Rico at 5 provisions is a little crazy, but this is just for Hyperthin. Hyperthin is kind of not very good at all. So I'd like to see this help that deck out maybe a little bit. But if you guys don't agree with that one, I'll understand. Now on to the power decreases, the actual nerfs here. Now that we know which categories we're actually putting cards in. So as far as the decrease in power, I think these ones, a couple here, I think you guys will understand. The first one's Torres. It's only... So we can't change with the Balance Council, like tokens or things that the game makes. So we can't change like second form Torres. But I think we should just decrease the power of regular form Torres. I don't know why this card plays for 22 points half the time, in addition to getting its spying effect. Or they like take your good card. Like they take like your... Say they put a bunch of cards in your deck. They take 2 10 provision cards from your deck after the Henryu, for example. And then they pick a 4, and this plays for 12, in addition to giving them everything else. I think the point slam's just too high. Or they just like take your 1 gold that they want, and it plays for like 16 or 20 points. 16 points, something like that. So yeah, I think the point slam on Torres is just too high. Speaking of just pure point slam, Sov did get changed at some point a while ago, but he just plays for too much. And it's, they just triple leader, and then they play Sov. He's just too big, I think. And then in addition to giving you the bring back on the blessing, or on the Singer of His Right, sometimes they do. And I think he's just too much point slam. Let me know if you guys agree with that one. I think he's just too much point slam. I do like the 12 for 12, though, I'll be honest. I like 12 for 12 as a stat line. I just think it's a little too good with how uninteractable he is with the immunity. Sure, you can play Curse of Corruption, and maybe people are because of the Erlins out there, but I think he kind of deserves this. The last card here, take a little For me, it was between Kraken and Lara. They're very similar, right? They're both disloyal cards where you decrease the power of them, it actually buffs the card. Like, we decrease Kraken's power, makes it easier to kill, and then you can bring it back to your board. As it is, like, Kraken's kind of too hard to get rid of. Especially because you only play this in Rain, and Rain really has no damage. Like, the only time that ever gets killed in Rain is if you randomly have your Sea Serpent in your hand, and then you Sea Serpent this. So I think this deserves a provision decrease, or a power decrease, so it'll be a little easier to kill. It's the same thing with Lara, but it was between Lara and Kraken on this one for me. There's not that many cards I actually think deserve their power getting decreased at the moment, so I think it was between Lara and Kraken. I went with Kraken, just because Lara does see play in Tatterwing all the time as like a key Tatterwing card, at least in a lot of the decks I've seen, whereas Kraken just doesn't. So we'll go with this. Last up, we do the provisions increase. This is one I don't think there's many things in the game we need to do, but there are a couple that I really think should be on here, and one of them deserves it more than once, and that's Mut Generator. This card is ridiculous. The fact that this was printed at 5 and nerfed to 6, I think Mut Generator could be like 8 provisions and be fine. I think it should be like 8. The amount of carryover you get is ridiculous, and the fact that the carryover is usually uninteractable because it gets eaten by an Erland is super annoying. And it's not that it's annoying that makes it want to go up here. It's that, like, what do? You got the Red Curse of Corruption and get last say. So, or Igni. I've seen a lot of Ignis. But yeah, I think Mut Generator is just too cheap. It's way too cheap. It should be at least 7. It should at least be 7. I think it should probably be 8 provisions for what it does. And at least then, and they trade their Heatwave into it, or trade their Shoop Destroying Artifact into it, it's not such a bad trade just for this card. But yeah, I think this card's way too good. And at this point, you kind of see this in every Northern Realms deck. Does not play like a suboptimal strategy. Well, not everyone, but almost all of them. Next up, we actually are going to go to the same faction twice, which I don't really want to do, but I think these cards both deserve it. Yonkelwait is the first one we're going to do from Nilfgaard. And, I mean, I don't think the problem with Yonkelwait's is his tempo, his point slam. I think that's fine. He kind of has to have it to go with this theme of stacking your deck. If he's too weak, stacking your deck is meaningless because you won't win the round, and they'll just bleed your cards out. So I think he kind of needs the power. But sorting the cards in your deck from highest to lowest is arguably the best consistency ability in the entire game. And the fact that it is on a 10 provision card is a little too cheap. I think he should go up in provisions. Like, this is so much consistency for, like, 10 provisions isn't that much. Like, it's a lot, but it's not terrible. So I think he deserves to be here, especially with how he always starts in your hand. If you're playing tactics, I think he's just too cheap. The last card here, we're going back to Nilfgaard. And I'm sure a lot of people will agree with this one. It's Battle Stations. Battle Stations is ridiculous. They just open Battle Stations, play 2 engines. Like, open Battle Stations, play 2 Imperial Marines. What's that, like 40 points by the end of the round or something? Yeah, the fact that this, like, if we compare this to a card I almost put on the list but didn't, if we compare this to Waters of Brokilon. We just reset here. Water of Brokilon. I always say that wrong. Water of Brokilon is also 11 provisions and plays 2 Dryad Fledglings. Dryad Fledglings are worse than Imperial Marines, and actually they're also worse than Light Cavalries, and most of the stuff you play off of Nilfgaard. You only get the Dryad Fledglings. They're worse than what you can get off of Battle Stations. You don't have a choice in what you get. You can always Battle Station for like 2 special cards to answer something really tall, like Double Turning Joust or something. Play one of your engines, Slave Driver it. Play an engine, use the other one for a lock on your cavalry. So I just think Battle Stations is too cheap. I also think Water of Brokilon is too expensive. We'll get into that later, as in a different time. So this is one other one. The only thing I don't like here is that Yonkelwait and Battle Stations are from the same faction and in the same deck. I don't really like double nerfing things, but I think they both deserve it, really. Anyway, those are my choices for the Balance Council. really curious to see what you guys are. Let me know what you guys think. What are you going to vote for? And yeah, just let me know what you're going to vote for. I'm curious. I'll probably do a video on a whole bunch of different things I want to see changed, but it's coming up pretty soon. I didn't have time to really do the whole video, get into like all the cars that need to get changed right now, but this is what we're going to do. And again, I don't think we really need to nerf that many cards in the game. I think most of the balance is fine. There's just some unplayable cards or really bad cards that need to get buffed. So I would actually kind of like to see less nerfs on each of the patch here. Maybe decrease the number of things here. I don't think they'll do it. I think they finalized their model, but in the future, probably be seeing me leave some of these nerf ones blank, because that's kind of the only way to do it. Either that or increasing some of the leaders, because that's a different story. I don't like how they're all basically the same provisions at this point, but that's fine. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Maybe it was informative. Let me know what you guys are doing, and we'll see you in the next one. That'll be it for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next time. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. And you can check out some more videos over here. And thanks for watching.